and the impact negative thoughts have on us. And then even worse is maybe speaking them out loud. I cannot wait for people to hear what you're about to tell them about that. Listen close, everybody.
You know, the first time I was diagnosed with cancer, the whole principles and everything that I was taught and I was learning became a lot more real to me. It wasn't some anecdotal field in my mind. Like now my mind was an asset. I'd been a 2-sport college athlete at Occidental and other things. And as I would get into my 19, 20, 21, I learned to use my mind as an asset and a lot of the core principles I was taught. But a lot of the sports psychology principles, a lot of the principles that I had been raised with, my dad's process was increasing human effectiveness, unlocking your potential, and committed to quality. And I was teaching a lot of those concepts in the sports world. And I had, IMG Academy is famous for the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy, 1,000 high school athletes, $70,000 a year, many of the best athletes, Tiger, Serena, Jeter, top prospects. Well, I'm like 24, 25. And, by the time I'm 26, just because I'm there and there's only a handful of us, I'm working with the best players in the country. And then I'm, working with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had to ultimately come with a message that was going to make sense. In sports, we estimate that the mindset's probably 3 to 5%. Because physiologically, there's no bullshitting the truth. You have to be big, you have to be fast, you have to be strong, you have to be explosive, you have to have hands. But your mind is like a steering wheel. The steering wheel, it might be a small part of a car, but it gets you where you need to go. And so we started to realize that that the positive thinking message wasn't working, and we also needed more time. So I told Coach Saban after our first season, we can't intermittently teach this. We've got 4 or 5 of the best people in the world from Wall Street, clinical psychologists, myself on the self-esteem side. But let's build an architecture in the summer where we give them an alphabet and then we can build off the language. And one of the big things we taught them was that negative thinking works. And we gave them a lot of the data from 18% of your creativity, your increase in errors, can go up by over 30%. It's a multiple of 4 to 7 times more powerful than its equivalent positivity. And then we had all sorts of not anecdotal data, but we had from the Mayo Clinic to the Cleveland Clinic, 83% of illnesses are facilitated, exacerbated, or started from negative thinking. And then what we started to learn was if we say things out loud, they're 10 times more powerful than if we think it. And if they're negative, they're a multiple of 4 to 7. So if I'm saying negative things out loud, I don't want to be here, I hate the heat, what's going on in our world right now, what's the circumstance, what's the situation, then I'm increasing the probability that what I don't want to have happen will happen by 40 to 70 times. The last point is the consumption of negativity. 3 minutes of news is an increase in 27%. That will say we had a terrible day. So if you're diagnosed with a sickness, the thoughts, they're inevitably there, right? But how you talk about it is always going to be in your control. And if you don't feel optimistic, then saying nothing is going to at least give your brain the best functionality to navigate forward, as opposed to, the panic that you create, by looking at the internet, by whatever, all those things. So
let's stay there for a minute. I want everyone to get this. This is one of the most important things ever said on my show, because it's simple. And when something's simple, complexity is the enemy of execution, everybody. So when you're trying to change your life, you're like, I'm down on my luck, I have these negative thoughts, my self-esteem's low, but you're going to go all the way to walking meditations as the first thing you're going to do. Yeah. That leap is too far. Let's just be clear about what you're saying, because we both work a lot with athletes. Athletes are such a great training ground for how business works. I want you to already said a couple things. I want to rehearse. It's only 3 to 5% of the separator. You got to be physical. In business, you still got to be skilled. You still got to have a great product. You still got to have a great business plan. But this 3 to 5% is the separator. And it's as basic to get to a decent level.
Yes.
It's as basic, guys, to get to a decent level as the thought of something negative is 4 to 7 times more powerful than the positive thought. But once you express it verbally, you're going to 40 to 70 times the power. Stay with me on this, everybody. One of the things that surprised me, because I was an athlete, just like you, similar type of athlete, good but not great.
Yep.
College athlete, that I am surprised how many people, because I don't do it, I just didn't do it, they speak negatives out loud. It's just not something I've done in my life. It doesn't mean I'm better or worse than anybody, but my life started out, I started to be pretty successful. I'm convinced, because I was in this very small group of people, I don't think a lot of negative thoughts, but I very rarely say them out loud. And that magnifier, not having it in my life, has created a great deal of success, just that baseline. So the first part of the program, guys, we're going to give you some examples next. Then we're going to give you a different way to think. But so far, you ought to be going, I have to stop saying negative things out loud. And then to my consumption, news, negative people, right?
Yep.
These things, I have to keep them out of my proximity. These are the baselines to be successful. And if you're all wondering, that's what you do with elite athletes. Athletes are the last people who buy into positive thinking stuff, just so you know. Because they deal with too much failure. So they know, you're 0 for 20, right? And you've caved 11 times. Your inclination is not to be thinking positive, and they don't want to hear that from anybody around them, okay? So how do they turn it around? And I got to go to a baseball story with them. I want to give them